If you want to reach heaven, become a saint, or be more religious in general, then you must consecrate yourself to Jesus through His Holy Mother, the Virgin Mary, my love, my everything, my precious, my queen, my gorgeous, my star of the sea, my everything, of course, after God. Just like Jesus, Mary also wants you to consecrate yourself to her. As Saint Louis de Montfort, Saint Maximilien Kolbe, Saint Therese of Calcutta, Pope Saint John Paul II, and many other saints. In this video, I'm going to show you the reasons why you should consecrate yourself to Mary, or to Jesus through Mary, is the same thing. And at the end, I'm going to show you how you can consecrate yourself and how you must live after consecrating yourself. When someone does good sacrifices, like helping the poor, sacrificing, fasting, they generally do it for themselves or for expiations of their sins or a family member. Many of you have good deeds that you're going to present to God after you die. Good deeds like fasting, sacrificing, helping the poor, and many other good deeds. Some of you are rich in good deeds. But what if I told you that all your deeds, past, present, and future, after consecrating yourself to Mary, they disappear? I know that some of you right now are saying, what do you mean they disappear? No. That fast I did with only bread and water, I suffer. I don't want it to disappear. Let me explain. And please don't leave the video, because if you leave right now, Jesus is going to be like, you see, Sergio, they left the video and they never consecrated to my mother because you scared them. What do I mean when I say that all your past, present, and future sacrifices disappear? What I'm trying to say is that all those sacrifices, past, present, and future, they disappear because you give them to Mary. You give the right to Mary to do whatever she pleases with those sacrifices, with those good deeds. So let's imagine you die and you go to be judged, and there's a huge line of all the people that have died, each one of them having their personal judgment. God, Jesus, tells them the offenses they have committed throughout their life, and He demands their good deeds. Some give the good deeds of helping the poor, fasting with bread and water, and many the good deed of praying the rosary. And now it's your turn. You go face to face with our Lord. He tells you all the offenses you have made, and He demands you your good deeds. But you look into your hands and they're empty. You have no good deeds. Why? Because you offered them all to Mary. And next to you is the devil, and he's smiling and smirking because he's ready to take you to hell. But at that moment, Mary comes next to you, and she offers an ocean full of good deeds. Good deeds that were yours, that you offered to Mary, that before they were only water drops. But because you offered them to Mary, they became an ocean of good deeds. And that's what it means to consecrate oneself to Mary. She takes all the imperfect things about you and makes it perfect. For example, that fast that you did with bread and water, that you did it being angry, showing off, oh, look at me, I'm fasting. That fast that you did wrong, because you offer it to Mary, she makes it perfect. Simply because you offer it to her. Saint Louis de Montfort explains this perfectly. It is like a farmer, eager to gain the friendship and favor of the king, goes to the queen and presents her with an apple, which was all his income, so that she might present it to the king. And the queen, accepting the farmer's small gift, places the apple on a large and beautiful gold plate and presents it thus to the king on behalf of the farmer, so that now the apple, which by itself was unworthy of being presented to the king, will have become a gift worthy of his majesty, in consideration of the gold plate on which it was placed and the person who presented it. The consecration to Mary, as explained by Saint Louis de Montfort, is to give oneself entirely to the Blessed Virgin, to be all of Jesus Christ through Mary. It is necessary to give her, number 1, our body with all its senses and members. Number 2, our souls with all its faculties. Number 3, our external goods, that is, our present and future fortune. Number 4, our interior and spiritual goods, that is, our merits, virtues, and good deeds past, present, and future. And just like the good deeds that we offer to Mary, we also offer our prayers, giving her the right over our graces of our prayers. We say, Mary, I grant you the right to distribute the grace of my prayers as you wish. Doing this guarantees that the grace of our prayers is going to be used as best as possible, or in the best possible way. For example, let's say that you have a sick relative, a family member that is really sick, and you pray night and day. You pray the rosary, you do mental prayer, you do all kinds of prayer for his health. But because you're consecrated to Mary, that means that all your prayers don't even go for your family member. Mary uses the prayers for a person in China. Why? Because she knows that the person in China needs more of those prayers than your family member. And I know that some of you might say, why should I care for a person in China? I want my family member to recover. I don't care about a Chinese person. But that's what it means when we consecrate ourselves to Mary. We give her everything, our good deeds, our prayers, and ourselves entirely. And she has the right to do whatever she pleases with our prayers and good deeds and our life. And we must be okay with that. Why? Because Mary makes everything that we give her more perfect. In other words, she improves, increases, and purifies the spiritual goods and merits we offer her. When we give them to her, she makes it more perfect. There is more grace and merit to distribute. And I know that many of you are doubtful or afraid of doing the consecration to Mary, because you might be saying, Sergio, what happens if I get sick and I want to pray the rosary, I want to pray to God to help me, but instead Mary uses that prayer for somebody in China, in India? Please, do not be afraid. You have to comprehend this. Mary never lets anybody to beat her in generosity. So if we are generous to give Mary everything and to distribute grace of our prayers and good deeds, then she will be extremely generous with us and our loved ones. In fact, she's going to take care of us and our loved ones better than any human being or all human beings together. For example, let's say that one family member of ours is sick and we have no idea. Maybe they live far away. But Mary knows. And because she knows, she's going to offer your prayers that you're offering for this person that you think it's really sick, but you're not aware that your other family member that is even in worse state. Mary takes those prayers and offer it to the other person. And that's what it means when we offer it to Mary. She knows who needs it the most. And she's going to deposit the graces of your prayers and good deeds for the person that needs it the most. Granting Mary the right to distribute the graces of our prayers and good deeds does not mean we cannot pray for our relatives anymore. We should. It's just that we give Mary the right, and we are okay to accept that she could do whatever she pleases with our prayers. In other words, we give Mary the final say in deciding for whom and for what purpose the grace of our prayers and good deeds should be applied. Never forget this. Mary is never beaten or outdone in generosity. If we give her all our merits, she will give us all hers. And that, my friends, is something beautiful. St. Louis explains it perfectly. The Blessed Virgin, who in love and liberality is never outdone by anyone, seeing that one gives oneself entirely to her, also gives herself entirely and in an ineffable manner to the one who makes a total gift of self. She makes them drown in the abyss of her graces, adorns them with her merits, supports them with her power, enlightens them with her light, surrounds them with her love, communicates her virtues, her humility, her faith, her purity, etc. In short, as the person is consecrated to Mary, so Mary also consecrate herself to them. I'm not sure about you, but I want Mary to consecrate herself entirely to me. Another reason why we should consecrate ourselves to Mary is because she leads us to Jesus and makes the path of holiness easier and faster. But I do need to clarify and say that Mary does not take away the crosses. In fact, those who are closest to Mary, those who consecrate themselves to Mary, they usually get more crosses than before. But she, Mary, our mother, she makes those crosses sweet and light. The most faithful servants of the Blessed Virgin and her greatest favorites, it is true that they receive from her the greatest heavenly graces and favors, which are crosses. But I maintain that it is also the servants of Mary who bear the crosses with more ease, merit, and glory, and that what would stop 1,000 times another or make them fall does not stop them once. Rather, it makes them advance, because this good mother sweetens all the crosses that she prepares for them with the sugar of her maternal sweetness and the anointing of pure love. One advances more in a short time of submission and dependence on Mary than in entire years of one's own will and reliance on oneself. By means of this practice, faithfully observed, you will give Jesus Christ more glory in a month than in any other way, however difficult in many years. The faithful servants of Mary, finding the yoke of Jesus Christ so soft that they hardly feel its weight. Another reason why we should consecrate ourselves to Mary is because she protects us from the devil. Mary surrounds her children and faithful servants, accompanies them like an army arranged in battle. Can a man surrounded by a well-ordered army of 100,000 men fear his enemies? A faithful servant of Mary, shielded with her protection, has even less to fear. This good mother will send thousands of angels to the aid of one of her children, so that it could never be said that a faithful servant of Mary, who put their trust in her, had succumbed to the malice, the number, and the force of their enemies. God created an enmity between herself and Satan cannot stand her. In fact, Satan does not only fear Mary more than the martyrs, the saints, the angels, but he also fears Mary even more than God himself. Why? Because Satan is the king of pridefulness. And because he's so prideful, it's harder for him to lose against a humble human being, which is Mary. He prefers to lose against the Archangel Michael again. He prefers to lose against God himself, but not against a simple, humble girl. Like for him, like you're hitting him in his worst part, his pridefulness. That's why he fears Mary even more than God himself. Saint Louis de Montfort says, being very proud, Satan suffers infinitely more at being beaten and punished by a small and humble servant of God, and her humility humiliates him more than divine power. Saint Louis de Montfort gives us a way to overcome sin, and that is to renounce to Satan and give ourselves entirely to Jesus through Mary. Even Gabriel Armaud, who died already, he was the exorcist of the Vatican, and he used to say this as well. Satan fears more Mary than God himself, that he heard Satan say it in an exorcism. So yes, consecrating oneself to Mary has a lot of benefits, but don't make this consecration only for the benefit, because God knows our heart. Our motive should not be self-love or the benefits, but the desire to please God and glorify God through Mary. Let's not forget this important point. And also, don't think that after consecrating yourself to Mary, you're gonna be lazy in the couch, you're not gonna pray anymore. No, when you consecrate yourself to Mary, you're even doubling down in your prayers, in your spiritual life. You have to grow spiritually. So don't think that once consecrating yourself, oh, I'm going to heaven because I consecrated myself to Mary. It doesn't work like that. Now, how does one consecrate themselves to the Blessed Virgin Mary? Simple and easy. You have to fast with bread and water for a whole year. No, I'm joking. I'm joking, guys. There are several ways or methods to consecrate yourself to Mary, but I'm going to give you the one that everyone knows and the most popular one, and the one I did. And that is by Saint Louis de Montfort, Total Consecration to Jesus through Mary. It's this one. The preparation takes 33 days. But first of all, you're going to have to choose one of these dates. I personally chose the day of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Each day you read a portion of the book. It's numbered, so it's really simple to follow along. Every day you're going to have to recite prayers that the book tells you to do. and they change every single week. But I do want to warn you, the third week, it's a bit hard because in the third week, St. Louis de Montfort is asking us to pray the four mysteries of the Rosary, which is the glorious, joyful, luminance, and the sorrowful one. Actually, he only prayed three because back then the luminance wasn't there. St. John Paul II added. I personally did all four, which means praying all four, so 4 rosaries each day for the third week. This is something you can do. Like I say, you can do 4 like I did, 3 just like St. Louis de Montfort did, or you could just pray 1 rosary. It's up to you. But I highly recommend for you to either pray 3 or 4. A question that I get asked a lot, and a question that I myself had, is that if I miss a day, let's say that I'm in day 30 and I forgot to pray that day and it's the next day already, do you have to start all over again? No, just the next day on day 31, pray day 30 and day 31. So you're going to be praying 2 days on that day. You don't have to start all over again, just pray it the next day. This is something really common. All the people that I know that have done the consecration, they miss a day. It's normal. We have our life. We're busy sometimes. We forget. It's normal. But just pray it the next day. At the end of the 33 days, you're going to have to go to confession, go to Mass, and receive communion. And I know that most often in times, confession is in Saturday. And if your consecration is not on a Saturday, try to go to confession either a few days before or a few days after. For example, my consecration was on a Wednesday and I went to get confession on Friday. And if one of your questions is, Sergio, I went to confession a month ago, do I need to go again? Yes, of course. Like Padre Pio said, your soul could always benefit from a bath. If you went to confession like 3 to 4 days before your consecration, I don't see why you should go again, unless, obviously, you committed a mortal sin and you have to go. But if you confess yourself more than 5 days ago, then I recommend for you to go again. And lastly, you're going to have to write your consecration prayer, which is like this. You can either write it or print it out, and you're just going to have to sign it and write the date of your consecration. Now, how should we live after consecrating ourselves to Mary? It's really simple. We must do everything with Mary, in Mary, through Mary, and for Mary, in order to do everything more perfectly with Jesus, in Jesus, through Jesus, and for Jesus. I will leave the link to this book to consecrate yourself in the description below, and also other links to books to consecrate yourself. And like I said, consecrating to Mary does not mean that we're safe already. No, we have to put in the work. We have to still keep getting closer to God through Mary. And one extraordinary way to get closer to God is by going to Mass and falling in love with Mass. And if you want to fall in love with Mass and the Eucharist, you have to watch this video, which I did, on the Last Supper, an extraordinary book that inspired me to go daily to Mass. I highly recommend that book. Thank you so much and God bless you all. Ciao!